Our hobby is so expensive. Hi and welcome to Tabletop Gaming, the home of cool things like this, a monthly magazine that you can get through your door or digitally, dedicated to all sorts of cool things, namely tabletop gaming, card games, board games, miniatures, and the like. But you are here on YouTube, so welcome, thank you for joining me. My name is Charlie, and today we're going to try and save you some money. Now, if you are a board gamer hobbyist and you've ever tried to insure your games and suddenly had to work out how much you've spent on them, you may realise quickly how much goes into this hobby. Now, there are plenty who are very good at this, plenty who have like a one in, one out system to make sure they're not getting too many games and they're not spending too much money, but it is so easy with things like Kickstarters and shiny new games perfectly in your genre, or from new people that you like, or from designers that you like, that you want to try the next one of. The FOMO is real. And that leads to huge collections of board games, which is never an issue, but there's got to be a cheaper way to do it, right? And yes, absolutely right, there are ways to mitigate costs, and I've compiled 5 of my, say, top tips that I think are particularly beneficial to us in the industry that make it a little bit easier not to spend every penny we have on board games. Although I wouldn't judge you if you do. Some of them are pretty obvious, but some are worth thinking about to sort of really see if you're utilising what's there. So, number 1, buy second hand. Now, there is a sort of argument for and against this. It's great when you're trying to save money, when you're trying to play more games. Obviously, that does mean less goes to the creator, so do be considerate. If you're especially waiting for a game, absolutely buy then. But if you're trying to save some money just as a player, pick up second-hand games. Now, there are reasons people avoid this that I fully understand. Namely, if you buy second-hand, you can't guarantee what components are inside unless you sit and go through them, and with the level of components that are in the games that we tend to play, that can be quite an undertaking. Equally, I know that people like the condition of their games. There's a lot of arguments about whether a dented box constitutes a return or not. And yes, that's true. People will likely have opened it. There will likely be sort of shelf wear and tear and things like that. But there are ways to mitigate those issues, and also are worth considering. Let me go on. Firstly, consider why you prefer buying brand new anyway. Is it because it's in the shrink, which is beautiful? Is it because you get to open up the punch boards and take everything out and be the person to put it all together? Well, the fun is on the game on tabletop, right? So although I love that part, don't get me wrong, and that is a part that is important to me, which is why you'll nearly always see me in unboxings opening the cellophane, because I think that's like, that's it being unwrapped. But it's still a great game inside it. It doesn't really make too much of a difference. You may lose that initial dopamine hit to be able to unwrap the seal, but really it's the game itself that's important. Following on from that, where you buy from can make a difference to some of those concerning prior factors. For example, if you buy through somewhere like eBay, you can get some total bargains. You can get some great things from regular people who are selling stuff. You can also accidentally pick up fakes because you don't know who it is that you're buying from, and that's true across the internet, but bear with me. But you do get buyer's protection. So if you get something that you are unhappy with, if the condition doesn't match the photos that you've seen, you have that protection available to you. So that's perhaps the first option. My preferred option at the moment, and the one that I do myself, is to use Facebook groups. And the reason for that is because there are really good niche hobby groups on Facebook, particularly within our industry, that means that when you're buying or looking to sell, you're doing so through people that are as fanatical about games as you, or likely to be, depends where in the fanaticism you are. For example, buying a party game off some random person who got it and played it a couple of times, didn't really like it, spilled a drink on it, weren't too fussed about it, yeah, go on, you can have it, is a bit different to buying it from somebody who spends their evenings and their hobby time playing those games. Those games are more likely to be well kept, they're more likely to be looked after, but they're also more likely to understand why exceptions to that need to be explained. There is a dent in the box, I need to tell you about this because you're probably going to want to worry about it. Plus, because it's a nice community, a lot of the deals that I find are, so they'll tend to be under eBay prices, and some of that is because the fees are different. Obviously, Facebook don't take a cut of purchases made, whereas eBay do. But equally, we like a deal. We like to offer deals. We like to get a deal. We like to feel like we've got a bargain. And whilst that does come with a sort of less protection than something like eBay, and that is a consideration, you need to be thinking about what you're doing. I accept no responsibility if something goes wrong. Buying through things like PayPal goods and services is a way to mitigate that concern. And if nothing else, you can have a look and see if people are posting deals and bargains, if they've got options, or trades. Now, Board Game Trade and Chat UK is my favourite. That's the one that I use because I am based in the UK, and they are generally a lovely bunch. You get some really interesting games crop up on there, ones you may not have seen for a long time. You can get those sort of out of market games. You can get those expansions that don't exist anymore from people that just aren't playing them but know that other people will. But you can also say, hey look, I've got a copy of insert game here, but here is my BG wish list. Does anyone want to swap me for one or the other? And generally those trades go through. Generally you'll find someone that is as interested in those too. And it makes for a really nice community, as well as saving you pennies. In number 2 is the option for print and play, which I think is vastly underrated and underused, and I think during the coronavirus pandemic, the lockdowns that occurred, we held a lot more value for this than perhaps we had previously, which I think is unfair looking at it now, but I see why people don't. So, print and plays, what are they? Now, you will get a file that you just click print to, do some cutting, maybe some sticking, maybe some drawing, and you're away. You've got a fully functioning game. Now, the barrier to entry to this, more often than not, is printer access. Not all of us have access to printers anymore because it's less needed, less necessary, everything is digital. But for those who do or can get access to them or have them printed professionally if you really want to, a whole wealth of games is open to you for very little cost. Especially, but not limited to card games, you can get these printed off, you can put them in something like general card sleeves, backed with maybe some cards that you don't want, so that it feels like a regular card to play those games with. You can get full versions of board games. You'll find some of the Under Falling Skies, for example, if I remember rightly, was a print and play before it became a board game, so you can get ahead of curves. Plus, it is the preferred way to playtest. So for new designers or new games for designers, you may get the first look at those by printing and playing them from home, which is a cheaper option than creating a prototype to play from. Now, is it faffy? Yes, it can be. It's a little bit more work, but time versus reward. It is worth it to put in a little bit of extra time to not have to pay so much for them. Now, you can find a ton of them for free. A lot of them are offered for varying reasons, absolutely for free. You can find them usually on the Board Game Geek forums, and you can find them direct on certain websites. We have a list on our site of free print and plays. I will pop the link for that in the description so you can check it out yourself, but there are also places to purchase them. So go have a look at Tussie Mussy, for example, by Elizabeth Hargraves. You can get that as a print and play. In at number 3 is online and offline subscriptions. Now, this is sort of more dependent on the fact that you are frequently buying games. If you find you are spending money on games every single month, this is something that could be a good option for you, and there are ways to make things easier. So, first of all is online game subscriptions, and I know this isn't everyone's bag because I understand that we're a tactile bunch. That's why we like tabletop stuff. We like having stuff in front of us, being around our friends, being able to feel those components. But if you're not too fussed about that, something like Tabletopia is a really good option. It plays in your browser, one of you needs the main subscription, and you can play a ton of huge games, new games to Kickstarter, games that haven't come out yet. All of those are available on there, and you pay one monthly fee. Now, if you're then, even if you're just trying out games before you purchase them, you're not wasting money on games that you know you don't like. In a similar vein, but more physical, is sort of your ability to play those games or borrow those games. So, 2 things here. First of all, board game rental services, sometimes run by friendly local game stores. Sometimes there are ones, I think it's Rent-A-Meeple, do one as well, where you pay a set fee each month and you will have board games delivered to you that you then return for another. It keeps you having that load of games coming in, the lack of FOMO, without the additional cost of purchasing those games. Granted, you don't get to keep them forever, but how often do games get cycled round when you have too many? How many just sit on the shelf? And in a very similar vein to that is checking with your friendly local game store to see if they are perhaps a board game cafe or that style of description where you can have a monthly subscription to rent a table. Not only is that then social, you're out with your friends, but you have access to their library rather than feeling the need to maintain your own, or just purchasing the ones that you know you'll play or that they don't have. Number 4, share games, share responsibly, share your info. Okay, so I attended my friendship group's usual gaming meetup that we all have, and they taught me to play Call to Adventure. This is one of their favourite games. Spoiler alert, I loved it. Now, there was a new one on Kickstarter relatively recently, and as I turned around and said, I saw there was another one on Kickstarter recently, that's really exciting, it looks really interesting, it turned out that each of the people at the gaming table had also backed this Kickstarter. Now, that would be fine if it weren't only that group that they play Call to Adventure with. Namely, we only needed one copy between all of us. If we don't all need a copy, we can save money by not purchasing that copy or by putting funds into it. I'd have more than happily paid half for that and it just been a case of, oh, I want to play it with my other friendship group next month. Could I borrow it back next month? Yeah, cool. Let me know when you want it back and I'll pass it back. Your gaming group needs to sort of consider, who are you going to play these games with? Is it them? Are you buying for them or are you buying for you? What difference are you going to get from having your own copy versus a group copy? Now, of course, the difficulty with that is dependent on your friendship groups or your board game groups. If you're concerned that they're going to take it and run and move to goodness knows where and there's some sort of custody issue that occurs, that's on you to work out. But do consider discussing what games you're buying to see if your game group will even play them. Discuss whether they have those games, whether you can try them out, whether you can play them around there, whether you can borrow those games. You don't need to be the keeper of all games and that can save you a ton. In at number 5, the one that I think is perhaps the most obvious is that we're a community at the end of the day. We love playing games, we love playing games with other people, we love new people coming into the hobby. The best place to get the best options when you're buying games is for any local game stores. Now, that covers a number of things. So first of all, if you're on their newsletter, for example, and maybe at Christmas they do 10% off, great. You've saved some pennies for not really needing to do anything at all. Equally, if you're in the store often, you're going to be realising what's there, what options you've got, whether there are deals on, whether there are loyalty schemes, whether they have a frequent rotation of stock of it, whether it's something that you're even interested in buying in the first place. You've got more chance of getting opinions on your purchases so that you know you're buying the right thing, right? Equally, within that community, it might not be your normal gaming group, but they might know someone who's selling the game that you're after that's been out of print forever and you were going to have to pay triple the cost for it. Now they know someone that's getting rid of one because it's got a dent on the corner and you can have it for half the price. Great. Talking to these people, getting their recommendations, making sure that you're only buying what you need to, you're buying from good people, it's just really nice. And I think it's a really easy tip and way to forget is that people are people. When you're buying from friendly local game stores, you're generally buying from people who understand that game purchases are luxury and that you may have other priorities, and they're there to help you and to keep you in the hobby. They're generally a lovely bunch. Yes, you get the odd one, but as a general rule, you can walk into a game store and have a great time chatting to the people there. So do that, see what they think to your purchases, see what they think to what it is you're doing, and be with the ones there. Be around enough to know when you're going to get bargains. Now, of course, the flip side to all of this is obviously you need to clear out your collection every now and again. You can make money from those in terms of selling them on to others in the same way described here as you can buy them from others. And we've got a really cool video called The Art of the D6, which talks about clearing out your board gaming collection based on a feature done by Matthew Vernal in the magazine. I went through it. It was very heartbreaking because I hate getting rid of games, but there's options there and some of them overlap. Some of the gains that you can make from buying cheaper are also ones that you can make from getting rid of at a cheaper cost too, so the sacrifices that you make there. Now with that, there was a lot there in the end, but I hope that all made sense. More simply, 1. Buy secondhand games. 2. Use print and plays. 3. Consider subscription services that limit your spending to a certain amount each month. 4. Chat to your gaming group, find out what they're doing, see if you can save money there too. Share, go in on pledges, go in on your purchases, see who's got what and make sure that you're not over purchasing for the sake of having the game in your collection. And 5. Check in with friendly local game stores, with your board game cafes, with your lovely lot and see what they're doing and if they can offer you any suggestions too. I hope that helps. I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out Tabletop Gaming. All the links that you need will be in the description. And thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments your best tips. I would love to hear from you because the more you comment, the more I get to talk about games. So I am here for it. Now with that, join us again soon. Thanks for watching and see you soon.